Welcome to this new episode of The Disabled Life. The purpose of this podcast is to tell people how I live my life. The name I'm using on the podcast now is The Disabled Guy, because I felt that you needed to hear something as opposed to just my voice there. I'm a disabled male living in Florida with cerebral palsy. I'm here to tell you how I live my life and some of the volunteer work that I do and how I managed to do it with cerebral palsy. Without further ado, let's go into the episode. Well, what I'm going to talk to you about today is something that's happened to me when I became an adult. I used to, let me say this is something I don't recommend people do. I made the mistake, and I admit it was a mistake. But we learn from our mistakes. Maybe not once, twice, 3 times, till you figure out it's a mistake. At first you might think that something is not a mistake, that something is a coincidence, but it isn't. Now let me get into what. Okay, I used to have a crazy habit of trying to tell people when I was having problems with a family member. And I used to tell them multiple times. And they got tired of that. So people stopped talking to me. Another thing I used to do, this is something that's really bad, I now realize it and I don't do it again. I used to make, for example, me used to make somebody upset and I used to want to immediately fix it. That's a bad thing. Let people think about it and think about it yourself. Now I do things a little different. Now I do things a lot differently, and it's working out for me. For example, let's say I get upset at a family member. This doesn't happen with friends much because I know how to deal with that. Okay, what I do now, and I learned how to do is, first of all, don't tell anybody when that's going on. Some people say that it's a bad thing to hide from when you're stressed like that. It can be. But if you're that frustrated and that angry, don't. Because you're gonna piss off somebody. And don't do that. Because let me tell you, that is not a good thing to do. I've lost some good friends because of that. I lost a great female friend because of that. And I realized, okay, you know that you were wrong and you know you want to resolve the problem, but being that you are angry, don't call somebody repetitively. Don't do that. Even though you know that what you're trying to do is be nice and fix the problem. Let it go. Let the problem calm itself. What I mean by that is take a few days to relax and think about it and how you're going to do it. But one key is don't make the same mistake twice. Because one time it's shame on you. Second time it's shame on me, but honestly, yes. Don't make the same mistake twice. So the piece of advice is, in a nutshell, is let things flow. If you're upset at somebody or somebody's upset at you, I know that doesn't feel right. I know that doesn't feel good, but you're going to have to learn how to deal with that. It's better to learn how to deal with it when you're young. Some parents try to help. Some help. Others don't help. Others make things worse. For example, others make things worse. And because, they try to overprotect the disabled. I don't agree with that. What I'm going to say here is something that is a piece of advice from a disabled person to another disabled person and or a caregiver. Another piece of advice for a caregiver is be supportive, or parent, be supportive, but don't get involved too much. Even when the person is a teenager, You have to still back off a little bit and let that person deal with it, because that's a good way for them to learn. Because if you help too much, they won't learn, and they'll make the same mistakes 2 and 3 times, like happened to me. I'm telling you that's not something that I would want to do again. Just let things happen, and when the person needs advice, what gave me the idea for this one? Mama D from Pedal to Support gave me the idea from this one, sorry. Because she talked about one of her sons that plays sports, that she lets, the son had a bad game. I believe it was a bad game, but after the practice, the coach spoke to him, sat on the bleachers like I told her, and she just waited in the car and didn't ask. This is according to a podcast that she put out. So it is something. Do that. Do the same thing that she did. Just let things go. And if you're angry at a person, don't tell people that they know, because the person may not want to listen to that. And I seriously do understand, and I get it. So it is important for adults and or caregivers, if people are emotionally able to do it on their own, let them. That's how we learn. We're adults. That's how we learn. I was not told that when I was a child or an adult. So I did not know very well how to handle that, till I finally learned on my own how to do it. So that's why I decided to come up with this one and tell you what I do and how I handle it now. If, let's say, give you an example, if I'm upset at anybody, I stay away from that person when possible. I don't talk to that person until I'm cool. And I only talk to them once, and sometimes I don't say what's bothering me, because it's best sometimes just to stay quiet. It is difficult. It is a lot more difficult when it's a family member involved, because a family member you have to deal with. Yeah, it's happened to me before. And let me say, and another thing that happened with that one particular female, the friend that I was telling you about, people in her circle interfered where they shouldn't have interfered with our friendship, and that broke it up. I don't agree with that. It's funny, but oh well. She was our fault, because she should have asked me, and she should have been more of an adult and spoke to me, not just believed what was being said to her by the person that interfered. The person that interfered severely was her business partner. Maybe she believed him over me. I don't know. That's what happened. But she should have valued our friendship. She should have pulled me aside and spoke to me one-on-one quietly, and I would have explained to her what was happening. But that's neither here nor there. It's just I'm just mentioning that story as a piece of advice and how to handle weird situations like that. I don't agree with that. People should not get involved in other people's relationships, but they do. As disabled people, we are adults, and we live lives, and we do sometimes make mistakes and what have you. But we have to learn how to deal with it. And if you, for example, shelter us from that, you can hurt us in a way because you think you're helping, but when you overprotect us, you don't help. You actually screw things up because we don't know how to deal with situations like this. So please, parents and caregivers, support when you can, but let the disabled individual handle that situation, because if they're emotionally able to handle that. I'm not saying don't help when they don't ask, but you can give advice and teach and whatever, but let the disabled person handle the situation. Because I'll tell you that honestly, it annoyed me when this was happening to me, and I didn't get help from parent, and I had to deal with it on my own. But I did it. But it took me longer because there wasn't nobody giving me advice and helping me. I had to figure things out on my own. Because, sometimes parents that we live with don't understand how to help us. Because they don't know what's going on. And sometimes they have to understand that you try to not say things to the person that is directly a friend to them. Another piece of advice is try to stay away from a situation where you talk to the person that is their friend. For example, I'll give you an example. That friend of mine that I was telling you about, a female, was the way I met her through a family member, a close family member. So that person knew her. I couldn't go to that person and say what is going on because they didn't understand, and they were not being objective. I absolutely tried to do that. So please don't. Try to do things like that. Caregivers, if you introduce if you introduce your child to somebody, treat that friendship with respect. Treat that friendship. If they come to you with advice, give them advice. Don't taint it, because that can be a problem. People do that on purpose. They don't realize. I'm sorry, not on purpose. They just don't realize what damage they are doing right now. It is terrible for that to be seen. So I'll tell you, it's something hard, but I had to learn on my own, and I did. And now I no longer deal with this problem because I know how to handle it. Let's say I'm upset, like example, on my mom or dad. So what I'll do is I don't tell anybody of that. The only exception is, I'll give you an exemption because sometimes you have to. I did it. One time I was upset at one of them. I'm not going to say who that person was, but I was going into an amateur radio event called Hamfest. There was a gathering, a bunch of us. I was on part of the committee. I was doing a lot of work, and I was doing a lot of work and doing things, including but not limited to exams. So there was an argument, there was a problem, and I'm like, so I get in there. As soon as I get in there, we jump into exams. So I'm emotionally spent from this issue of somebody trying to argue at me right before I'm going to work. That's terrible. And I had to sit there and work with that, two test sessions through that. I'm a professional. I did my job. Nobody cares that I was having an issue, family issue, whatever. Nobody cares, because all they want to do is care about the test and get the test, and I respect that, and I understand that. I definitely do get it. So I just went in there and did my thing, did the 2 test sessions. I went into After 2 sessions, I went into the show office. I told them I need a few minutes. I went into the show office, grabbed me a cup of coffee and a donut, and I just said, okay. I just waited for. I just took that time to just relax, decompress, because when I had the situation go on, I was like, but I, as a person, decided, okay, I'm going to now just do my job and get it done. And so there's times where you have to tell people, and I had to tell people what was going on, because I need to know why I needed a quick 15-minute, why I needed a few minutes break to just decompress in the morning. So this piece of advice is given to you. Actually, this recording, this episode is going to be. It's going to be tomorrow. It's going to be, what is this? Today's Thursday. It's going to be scheduled for Saturday at 7 a.m. Like I said in previous episodes, there have been some changes to episodes because of situations that happen, and that personally I'm dealing with, because I record things as they go, and sometimes I record true events that have happened to me, like this event. So that's why it's fluid. With that, thank you for listening, and you can follow me at the following. You please rate and follow me, and then you can. I'm gonna list off the major platforms that I'm on. I'm on Apple Podcast, Spotify, Google Podcast, Podcast Addict, which I didn't know that was there, and all of a sudden on Spotify I saw that one. I'm sorry, I'm not on Amazon, or I'm not on yet on Pandora Podcast, but I hope to be there soon. Now let me give you my email address so that you can contact me, or you can if you're on Spotify, if you have an account on Spotify, you can go in there and leave me a message. But my email address is as follows: all letters, KE4KEY@gmail.com. Say again, my email address is KE4KEY@gmail.com. With that, thank you for listening, and I'll talk to you on Wednesday.